The all-new 2025 Toyota Land Cruiser is finally here, and in this video I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, go for a drive and see how it drives, as well as talking about the fuel economy you can expect and also the pricing and how it compares to the competition. And huge thanks to Toyota for flying me out here to San Diego and providing me with this opportunity to review the Land Cruiser for you guys today. So about the 2025 Land Cruiser, well, these are so awesome. When they first were revealed last year, I mean, it made such a statement. It's just such a cool design. It goes back to the retro Land Cruisers of old, and it's also so cool that you have two distinct headlight designs, two completely different looks. You have these horizontal ones here on this Land Cruiser trim is the name of this one, but then you get the round headlamps on the 1958 edition, which is the base trim, and also on the first edition, which is the 1 year only, limited edition version. And anyway, as far as this color too, it's called Trail Dust. It looks super cool, and I mean, the styling on this thing is just cool from every single angle. And as far as how it's sized, if you haven't seen one of these in person, it's really interesting. So for comparison's sake, it's about 14 inches shorter than a Sequoia on about a 10-inch shorter wheelbase, but it's about 1.5 inches narrower, but 1.5 inches taller than a Sequoia. So even taller than a Sequoia, but narrower. And so it's just this very boxy, cool vibe. But I love how you have the fenders that are flared out here still, and you have some curvature to it. It's not all just slab-sided, but a lot of it is, and it just looks so cool, especially this one with a white roof. And there's so many fun colors you can get with a heritage blue and the more traditional colors. But I mean, it is just so cool. I'm so glad they went so bold here with the Land Cruiser. And the other bold thing is the powertrain changes here. Obviously, it's now on this new TNGA F platform, like all the other Toyota trucks. But because of all these big changes, gone is the V8 of the old Land Cruiser and that very dated vehicle's bones. And now you have all fresh underpinnings, and you have a hybrid 4-cylinder turbo engine as standard. These all come with the iForceMAX engine only. It's a 2.4 liter turbo engine with the mild hybrid setup here. And it's really cool you have that here. We'll try it out and see how it is out on the trails and also on the road. And it's a really strong, punchy powertrain for sure. But anyway, other things here to note. So you have these all-terrain tires here on these that are only 18-inch wheels here on this one, but they're 70 series sidewalls, so just giant wheels and tires here. And it really fits perfectly though with the whole style of this vehicle. And I love like the squared off side mirrors here and the little kick up there towards the rear. Going out to the back there, you have traditional simple taillights there. I love that you have the rear glass that lifts up. You also get 9.2 inches of ground clearance here on the Land Cruiser, which is certainly appreciated, something you expect out of an off-roading legend like this. And just from every single angle, this thing just looks so cool. The interior of the Land Cruiser is also really cool. I love the way they did this interior. There's a lot of great standard equipment as well, and lots of tech. I mean, it's a huge upgrade from the very dated previous generation Land Cruiser. And I mean, it's just so cool. I love also, like, for example, these seats. You have these Java brown soft tech seats here in this Land Cruiser trim, but I also love the base seats. And in 1958 edition, you get this really retro, more coarse cloth. It's really still smooth and comfortable, but it's this very thick fabric, and honestly, it reminds you of something from the 80s or the 90s in a very good way. In addition to that vehicle being very retro, and this also looking retro on the outside for the Land Cruiser trim, but I love that base interior as well. You also, on that base interior, get 7-inch digital gauges still as standard, an 8-inch touchscreen that has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. You also get a heated steering wheel, heated seats as standard. You get the smart key access as standard. There's a lot of really good standard equipment baked in to that base Land Cruiser. And if you're someone who, enjoys cloth seats, if you're someone who wants something that really feels like you're almost time traveling in some ways, while still having all the newest tech and all that, I think that 1958 edition is great. But this Land Cruiser trim is also super nice. You do get some extra niceties. So, like, in addition to the heating, these seats are perforated and cooled or ventilated, and they do a pretty good job of cooling you down here. And really nice you have these seats, and also they have adjustable thigh support here, as well as all the usual adjustments. You also have the memory function here on these as well. Then moving on to the steering wheel, like I said, it's heated. It really is great. I love the retro design of it. Again, it's just so cool. It's unique. It's not like any other Toyota wheel. I like the buttons on it here though, and has a great 9-3 grip. And no 10 and 2 notches though, just again old school, and I love that about it. You also will see this driver monitoring sensor here on this top Land Cruiser trim, because that's how you get the traffic jam assist opened up, and it does the driver attention monitoring as well. And then moving on to the gauge cluster. So this one here, this Land Cruiser, you get the 12.3 inch digital gauge cluster as standard. It's pretty normal. It's what you get on all the other Toyotas with this 12.3 inch screen. Lots of great customization to it with different themes and looks, and you can customize each of those gauge pods as well as what's displayed in the middle there. And there are some unique stuff here for Land Cruiser, like the tilt and pitch of the vehicle and all those types of things, the auxiliary gauges. And it certainly is nice to have those off-road specific things. And also here, if you get the premium package on top of the Land Cruiser, you also get a head-up display and also this JBL 14 speaker stereo. And nice to have those as well if you're someone who's into that stuff. But coming over to the middle of the dashboard here, this one does have this 12.3 inch touchscreen, which by the way is available as an upgrade option on the 1958 edition as well. So if you want that retro look and the cloth seats, but you want the big screen, that is an option. Toyota is so good at giving you options and getting exactly what you want. So that is an option. And as standard, you get 6 speakers here in these. There's a 10 speaker setup that you get as standard with this 12.3 inch screen when you upgrade to that automatically. And then this 14 speaker JBL system is one upgrade higher from that. But this system works great. It has the same functionality as all the other new Toyotas with this new software they have, which is really great. This wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. It's really simplified, nice and easy to change radio stations, pull up navigation, and just very simple, but has everything you need, nothing you don't. I love the volume knob, even though it looks a little tacked on. I'm glad we still have it, and it's in a good position in my opinion as well. And then coming down, you have your row of climate controls here, which are nice and simple. And then you'll see all the other wonderful assortment of buttons you have here for your drive mode selector, the multi-terrain select here, they have the crawl control, all that kind of stuff, and your locker here, and stabilizer bar disconnect, your low and high range adjustments and all that, and the nice chunky shifter. You also have this wireless charging pad, and I also love that you have 3 USB-C jacks, including the data one. Other Toyotas still are using USB-A in some of them, but you'll have all USB-C here in this, which is great. Good size cup holders, and then the center armrest, which is nice and softly padded. All the padding in this, especially this Land Cruiser trim, is nice and plush. You have some nice padding on the doors here. All your elbow points are nice and soft. You also have a padded knee area, which is an unexpected touch, honestly, but a really nice thing. It helps this feel a little more premium for sure. But anyway, you open up the center armrest, and this one has the optional cool box, which you can hear it blasting refrigerated air into that area there. It's so cool they kept that, and it's really handy. I mean, this is cold in here. You really can have a nice cold drink here with this, and I mean, that is going to be very, very nice on hot days, and worth every penny to get that cool box. That is also part of that premium package. That package also gives you the moonroof, the digital key, the lane change assist, the front cross traffic alert, this traffic jam assist, and the digital rearview mirror. Moving on to the back seat here in the Land Cruiser. It's a nice, spacious back seat. So I'm 5'9", we're sitting behind myself. I have, probably 3 or so inches of legroom to spare back there. Pretty comfy, maybe not as enormous of an interior in the back there as you might be expecting for a vehicle this large, but it is a good amount of space. I mean, obviously plenty of headroom, no issues there. And then you also will see that up there in the roof is where your air vents are, which is cool. But the funny thing is you still have air vents for the non-existent third row. Here in North America, we don't have a third row option. Other markets do. We don't, but they still have those air vents back there, as well as a few other things I'll get to in a second. But anyway, you do have the 3-zone climate control as standard, by the way, here in these. So you have the controls down here for that. And you'll see also 2 more USB-C jacks back there, as well as a regular power outlet. You do have the 2400 watt inverter here because this is the iForceMAX powertrain. So you have those hookups there in the back as well as in the cargo area. And moving on to that cargo area, now it is huge. You will see that there's a little bit of like a lip there where you can see that is where the battery is stored for the iForceMAX powertrain there. But you do have a little part in the front there that does flip up, so you have a little bit of extra storage in there, but it still is a massively wide and very tall space. So I don't think anyone's going to complain about the amount of cargo space in the back of these things. But it is funny, you have USB-C jacks on both sides of the back there, as well as cup holders and stuff. They say that could be handy for tailgating, things like that when you're hanging out in the back there, camping purposes, all that. You have that capability. So, I mean, there's some justification there to leave those in, but it is kind of funny. Those are all clearly things made for a third row that doesn't exist here in North America. And it is a power closed tailgate here on these Land Cruiser trims. If you go for the 1958, it is a manual hatch, but even though it's a large hatch, it's not too bad to raise and lower. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Land Cruiser here has the Land Cruiser key. It does have a unique little thing there on the front of it, but otherwise it's the standard Toyota key, just a plastic key, nothing super fancy or anything, but it's not too big, gets the job done nicely. And of course, like I said, keyless access, keyless entry, push button start. So you see the key in your pocket, hit the power button, and it starts right up. But setting off in the Land Cruiser, we're going to start with acceleration here and test out this new iForceMAX powertrain. And here we go. There it is. And then wow, yeah, it gets up and goes really nicely. That's a good amount of punch. So this 2.4 liter hybrid 4-cylinder turbo engine does 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. And that's what you're really gonna feel, is that torquey punch, which, I mean, it feels good in these upper RPMs as well, but really the low down RPMs is where you're gonna really feel it the most. I did some off-roading. I'll get into the off-roading impressions a little bit later, but I mean, with the off-roading, I mean, you really feel that torque, and it feels so nice, and that combined with the electrification gives you an instant little surge forward and a nice little bit of punch there, and just feels really good overall as far as the performance numbers. Now, we don't have any 0 to 60 times to share, but you know, I mean, this thing's about 5,000 pounds, so it's pretty weighty, and I mean, you know, it's 465 pound-feet of torque, but it's still moving around a big block here, you know. So, but I mean, it feels really punchy. The passing power is what you're really going to feel. That mid-range just surge forward, and I'll even take it out of the sport mode here, so it's not even revving as much, and we'll just go down to the normal mode here, and coming up to a little bit of a hill here, and we'll just slowly roll into it, and you just have this wave of torque as you roll into it, and it's so strong and so powerful. I mean, it feels way punchier than the old V8, honestly, and the fact that you have the hybrid efficiency here, I mean, it's a really cool combo for sure. Now, other things to note. So, of course, since we're on that new TNGA F platform, we have a lot of extra sophistication here with a double wishbone front suspension, a multi-link rear suspension there. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice smooth ride here. This one does have, you know, these all-terrain tires on it and all that, but you know, I mean, you feel the occasional little jitter. I mean, you definitely can tell it's a body-on-frame kind of truck here. But overall, I mean, it still is really cool, and it gives you the kind of vibe you're looking for with something like this. I love, you know, the boxy side mirrors and just the boxy windows. Lots of big glass as well. Something I really loved about the Lexus GX as well, which this shares a lot with. But it gives you this kind of vibe of, you know, everywhere you go in this thing is going to be an adventure. Everything is an event. It's just one of those vehicles where you're just always going to have a smile on your face driving this thing around, because it's just fun by nature. It's just fun by your seating position. And I mean, even like these A-pillars, I don't think I've seen A-pillars this thin since the 90s. Like, it really is so retro in all the right ways and then modern in all the other right ways, and it's just like the perfect blend of both. And I mean, here we are, we're on this mountain pass here, climbing hills, and it's all doing it with ease, and it also handles well. I like, you know, you have electric power steering now for the first time. It was still sticking with the old hydraulic power steering for the old one since it was so dated. Now you got the electric power steering, and it feels great. It's nice and weighty even here in the normal mode. I mean, obviously, again, we're talking about a giant, tall, you know, brick on wheels with big, meaty sidewalls and all that. But, you know, as we're coming up some corners here, I mean, it still handles it all really well. This platform, you know, even though, yes, it's a truck platform, it's a very sophisticated, modern platform, and so it means you have lots of rigidity, you still get great ride quality, and also great handling as well for something like this, and certainly, you know, a lot more capable, I can already tell, than the Land Cruiser that I spent a week with for the prior generation a few years ago. Obviously, you know, there's low limits. I'm not going to act like this is a sports car or anything, and I'm not going to review it as such, but, you know, anything you're throwing at it, even mountain roads like this, it handles it totally fine. I'm, you know, catching up to traffic here, and, you know, able to, you know, be doing a good pace here without biting my nails and being terrified. It really is very confidence-inspiring and very capable. And it also can tow a pretty respectable 6,000 pounds as well, which is, you know, certainly really good for something like this. But if you want even more towing, the Lexus GX that this shares a platform with, that has the twin-turbo V6 engine in it, and that is able to tow a good bit more. That is a lot of towing. So if you want the towing champ, you might want to go for one of the lower trims of that GX, which comes in pretty close to these upper trims of the Land Cruiser as well. I'll get more into pricing in a minute or two here, but you know, still 6,000 pounds towing should be more than enough for most people, and, you know, really good for, again, a turbo hybrid 4-cylinder engine. This motor is really an overperformer, and I know a lot of people will miss the V8, but I mean, it's awesome at towing. It's awesome at, you know, high elevations. The turbo is going to be great for especially people that live at higher elevations where that naturally aspirated V8 would have ran out of steam a lot faster. You know, the turbo really is great for those adventurers, you know, in higher elevations. And so I think that the turbo motor is going to be a really nice upgrade as far as usability, around town drivability, in the mountains drivability. I mean, all the ways it's going to be a nice improvement. Now, as far as the off-road driving goes, I'm no pro off-roader or anything. They did have a nice little course set up for us, just a few minutes long, but it's it's still a fun little course. We were lifting wheels and going through water and all that, and I'm really impressed with this. It really is super good. Now, it's not as advanced with the suspension as the GX. We were doing some really wild stuff in the GX, and I'm sure the Land Cruiser can keep up pretty well, but I think obviously the GX has a slight edge there, but you're paying more for that, of course, as well, with especially those over-trail trims of that GX. But as far as the Land Cruiser, I was still really impressed. I mean, going over rough rocks, you have all the great tools. It's really nice having the multi-terrain monitor, so you can see, the forward camera shows you exactly how much space you have, and it's really helpful when you're on tight trails, especially since this is a fairly large vehicle. It's crucial. I mean, there was times where all I could see was sky and the hood. I couldn't see anything in front of me, but with that forward camera, I was able to see where I needed to go. It was giving you the guidance there with the little tire lines there of where you're headed, and being able to navigate in close quarters with those cameras is definitely a feature you don't want to go without if you're planning to do any kind of off-roading in any kind of tight conditions, especially. But even whenever you're just doing hills and things like that, it really is very, very useful and handy. And also it has the crawl control, which they have said is quieter now for this new generation crawl control. It's not as loud as the previous generation. I tried that also, and it certainly is a nice thing to have. Personally, I like having the manual control myself and just using my own throttle and brake inputs, but it is nice if you want to just set that. It'll do the crawling for you there at those low speeds, and a nice feature. Great to have all this tech. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, if you're old school, but it is great that they have all this stuff available to really bring Land Cruiser off-roading into the 21st century and really make it very, very easy to do, relatively speaking. And also have the stabilizer bar disconnect, which is really great to help smooth out some of those wild hills and things that you're going over. And you have the center locking diff, the rear locking diff here, full-time four-wheel drive, again with the high and the low. And I also love how it kicks on immediately. So anytime you're just under like 5 miles per hour, so it kicks on there. And even if you're just parking, navigating in close quarters, it's great that, again, for a large vehicle to have the nice easy parking capability is great. And so another acceleration here though, yeah, this thing, for something like this, more than enough performance, and it's really great that they've made this so punchy. Now, I do have to say, since I did review the GX, that twin turbo V6, obviously that does feel stronger. You have more power in that. It's undeniably the one to get if you want to have the most power, the most towing, and all of that. But I gotta say that this is still not much of a downgrade. It still feels really punchy. 465 pound-feet of torque isn't far off from that GX torque figure. So I mean, still a really strong motor, even though it is just a 4-cylinder. Moving on to the safety technology here in the Land Cruiser, it's really good. It comes with Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 as standard, which means you get basically all the main stuff as standard. Now, you do still have to pay extra for blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert in that 1958 edition, but here, on this Land Cruiser trim, you're going to have that as standard. And, I mean, this vehicle is pretty boxy. It's pretty easy to see around, though. Even the B-pillar is pretty thin, so, not a must-have thing, but that is the only thing you have to pay extra for as far as the basic stuff. And a lot of other Toyotas do offer that as standard, so I'd like to see that someday, be added into the standard equipment, but I appreciate them trying to keep the pricing low on these and making that an option for those who don't need it. And then, the only other thing is, the traffic jam assist and the forward cross traffic alert that comes with the premium package, which are certainly nice things, along with the digital camera rearview mirror, head-up display, all those other things. I mean, they're nice to have. Not must-haves in my opinion though, but if you want to have all the safety tech possible, it's great. That traffic jam assist, by the way, for anyone unfamiliar, something Toyota's been using in the past couple of years here now. They started to roll out, and it allows you to do hands-free driving on the highway at speeds under 25 miles per hour. So just when you're in real slow stop and go stuff on the highway where that'll open up that hands-free capability. Otherwise, you know, you're still gonna have to have your hands on the wheel, but it still does have the lane keep assist, lane trace assist, all those types of things to, you know, give you a little bit of assistance there out on the highway, even at those higher speeds. And this driver monitoring system also makes sure you're paying attention, looking forward at the road, and, you know, can detect if there is some kind of medical emergency or something. You know, great, you have all the modern safety tech too, because that's something you didn't have with the old Land Cruiser. So it's great they've brought all that up to speed as well. Now, the last couple of things I mentioned here are fuel economy and then pricing and how this compares to its main competitor, which in my opinion is the GX. But first, the fuel economy. These are rated at 22 mpg in the city, 25 on the highway, and 23 combined. And, you know, I mean, again, for something that is as tall and blocky as this is, that has as much power as this has, it's awesome you have that hybrid component. And, you know, it'll be really interesting to see, you know, around town how this does whenever you're able to use that hybrid function a little bit more there. But I think, you know, for something like this, again, totally good fuel economy and a slight improvement over the GX as well. So one other thing, if you are looking for, you know, the best fuel economy, this is certainly going to win out over that twin turbo V6 in the GX. But then the last thing to mention here is the pricing and how this compares to the GX. So as far as, you know, pricing goes, these start right over $57,000. These Land Cruiser trims here start a little over $63,000 before you add on the premium package, which bumps these up, I believe, to around 66 or so. And then you have the first edition. That is, again, a one-year only thing, you know, a very collectible model. I'm not sure how many of those they'll be making, probably not a lot, but that one's going to be around $76,000. So a big jump up. It does give you, you know, the exclusive look of, again, having those round headlamps with all the goodies on the inside here and all the luxury. And so, I mean, obviously that one is kind of an outlier, but as far as the competitive ones here, the Land Cruiser trim, you know, I think they priced it appropriately, where it, you know, it comes in a nice savings over the GX. But the thing is, the GX starts at just $64,000, and they come really well equipped for 64 grand as well. You know, the GX still gives you, I believe, heated and cooled seats as standard, the heated steering wheel is standard, you know, really high level of standard equipment. And, you know, I mean, you don't have as aggressive of tires. It's a more, you know, street-oriented trim with those base premium trims of the GX. But it's just worth noting, you can have this same setup pretty much with a twin turbo V6 and the Lexus Luxury for, you know, really close money to this regular, you know, Land Cruiser trim. And again, you still have some extra equipment in this one, you know, having that premium package and, you know, having all the off-road goodies, which you don't get on those base GXs. You know, they are decontented, so it just comes down to your priorities. If you're doing off-roading, you know, a comparable over-trail trim there of the GX is going to be a lot more expensive, and that's where you can have a really big gap. But if, you know, you don't care about the off-road stuff, you just want something that looks cool and you love this design and this shape and all that, you know, I think that GX might make a little more sense for those lifestyle casual drivers that aren't doing any kind of intense adventuring and off-roading. But overall, I really love this new Land Cruiser. They did an awesome job with it, in my opinion. I'm looking forward to having one of these for a full week, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for what it's like to live with one of these for a longer period of time. But overall, I think they did a great job with these. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Land Cruiser. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing me here this Land Cruiser to review for you guys today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.